This year we're focusing on adverbs. So this is a little section I like to call words to use instead of goodly. You shouldn't use goodly, it's not a word, but some people use it because good is an adjective and they think it can easily transfer into adverb form, but it can't. So I'm giving you a whole series of words that are positive meaning and they're adverbs. And tonight's word is boldly. Boldly. And boldly is an adverb that means to do something in a brave or confident way, or to do something without being afraid to say what you feel or take risks. So you can say something boldly. You can say something in a business meeting boldly, right? Something that surprises people or is taking a chance. Or you can do something boldly, like jump out of an airplane or meet a stranger and make a new friend. Now this is an adverb, and as you know, adverbs are movable. Some of them have certain positions in a sentence they need to be. Generally speaking, where am I? Boldly goes in front of the verb. So I'll give you an example. Okay. My example is, my guest, whom you'll meet shortly, my guest boldly, let's say, followed her dreams. Okay, so we need an L. Boldy. Boldy. What the hell's that? Boldly. So there's our adverb, and there's our verb. Okay, boldly followed. So my guest, and you'll hear her story shortly, did something that took a lot of courage. Right? Not a simple choice for her career and her life. Not a simple sort of common or normal choice. She followed her dreams in a bold way that had risk and took a chance and required confidence and bravery. Okay? For those of you who don't know, bravery or confidence, bravery really means doing something that's scary, right? Something that scares you, but you do it anyway. So I'd like you guys to try making a sentence with the adverb boldly in front of an action verb, right? It should be an action verb, like walk, speak, or something like that, okay? So give it a try. Let's see what you can come up with. And in the meantime, I'd like to say hello to Wilson. Wilson is joining us from Ecuador. Hi, Wilson. Welcome back. Wilson's a longtime viewer and friend of the show. We also have Kumiko-san from Japan. Hi, Kumiko. Welcome to the show. Kumiko's with us. Wilson. So guys, give it a try. Make a sentence in the comment thread and we'll have a look at how they came out. Who's got a sentence? Oh, Rie Suzuki is with us. Hi, Rie. Welcome to the show. Hi, Rie. Long time no see. Who else is joining us? Wilson, yep. Good evening, Teacher Paul. I am from Ecuador. Good. Still. Kumiko from Japan. Okay, guys, let me see your example sentences. Boldly. She boldly spoke in the meeting. Right? To speak boldly. Anyone have an example yet? To do something boldly. Okay, we have an example here. I think it's from Chris. My best friend boldly went rafting by herself. Yeah, right? Rafting is pretty dangerous. A lot of risk. A lot of risk and danger in rafting on a river, right? So to do that requires that you do something in a brave or confident way, right? Because there's risk. We should think about risk, but we shouldn't be afraid of it, I think. Good things in life often require risk and require bold action. Not always, but sometimes. Especially if you really want to go rafting, you're going to have to take a chance because it could be a little dangerous. If you avoid it, well, then you never get the experience of rafting. So boldly went rafting. Great example. Who else has an example? Anyone? Anyone have an example we can share? Let's use boldly in a sentence. My guest boldly followed her dreams. She boldly spoke in the meeting. He boldly proposed to his fiancée. Asking someone to marry you requires bravery because it's a risk. Somebody could say no. So when you propose to a fiancé, you must do so boldly. What else do we have? Okay, we have Wilson's example. I am sometimes boldly speak when I am giving a speech in front of a large audience. Okay, great. One thing, Wilson, you don't need the be verb up here. You don't need that be verb. Just say, I sometimes boldly speak. I sometimes boldly speak. Good sentence, though. Very good. Anyone else have an example? I will boldly go in for the exam. Yeah. Doing an exam requires bravery and confidence, right? Because there is a risk. What's the risk? Will you get hurt physically? No, not like rafting. But the risk is you might not get a great score. So there is a risk. But if you don't take the test, you get no score. So you have to do it. Anyone else have an example? Okay, I'm going to get ready by cleaning the board with Expo Whiteboard Care product. An excellent product for cleaning your whiteboard. And if you want to purchase your own from Amazon, you can do so in the link below. It's an excellent product. It cleans the board quickly, and very quickly after cleaning it, you can write on it. It dries very quickly. Okay. Okay, Wako says, I boldly joined a softball league, which I haven't played for years. Yeah, so that takes bravery, to do something in a brave and confident way, because Wako has not played softball in many years. Well, years, not many years, but years. And there's a risk. There's a risk that, one, you might get hurt, and two, it might not be fun. And three, it might not turn out so well. Who knows? So that takes a lot of boldness, right? That's the noun form of boldly, boldness. And the adjective form is bold, for those of you who want more forms of the same word. Any other examples? Bargain Betty, does Bargain Betty have an example? I know Bargain Betty knows how to do things boldly. What with living on the moon and stuff. Living on the moon is doing something in a brave and confident way. You know, it's one thing to visit there. NASA astronauts have done that. Whatever. But to live on the moon and watch my live stream from the moon, that's bold. So let's see if Betty has an example. And if not, we're going to move on and go to our next segment. I'll just get things organized here. I boldly attend Teacher Paul's online class. Yeah, boldly attend. That takes a lot of bravery because I'm sure Bargain Betty is really busy on the moon. So to get away from all the responsibilities and all the demands on Betty's time on the moon, that takes bravery. So that's a very bold action. Wilson has another one. Wilson says, I sometimes boldly participate giving advices to people. Great, yeah. Advice. Advice is uncountable, by the way. You giving advice to people. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes people don't want to hear it. So the risk is they might tell you, you know, thank you, but I don't want your advice. Right? Okay, let's wrap it up, guys. Let's push this away. Great. Well, for those of you who have watched our show for a long time, you will know that once in a while we bring on guests, usually twice a month, and then reserve the other classes 2 times a month for just Q&A. So I have a very special guest joining us tonight. She is an educator that I met online during the pandemic period where a lot of us educators were online. And I was very impressed with her work on LinkedIn and YouTube, the videos she was producing. She is a Chinese language teacher. Now that in itself is unusual for this show because generally we have had English teachers on the show. So my guest is the first non-English teacher on the show. But in getting to know her a little bit, I found a lot of overlap or commonality between being a teacher of English and being a teacher of the Chinese language. And she specializes in teaching Chinese language for business purposes, and that includes cultural information. To do business between different countries requires cultural sensitivity and cultural awareness in order to have smooth, productive relationships. So it's not always just about language. So it's a real honor and pleasure to introduce my next guest. You can find her with the links below, so please subscribe to her channel. Please follow her on LinkedIn and welcome her to the show, Ms. Liping Yang. Hi, Liping.
Oh, hi. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you hear me okay?
Very well, very well.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you on, and I'm really honored to have you, to share you and introduce you to our viewers because, for one thing, maybe some of them want to learn Chinese, but also even if they're just language learners of English, it gives them another view of language learning worldwide and the process of learning a language, because I think there's a lot of similarities and differences
Exactly.
when you learn different languages.
Yep.
So I'd like to start off, first of all, how was your day?
It's pretty good. A little bit busy, but yeah, it's Friday, right?
Yeah. Yay, Friday.
Yeah.
I always like doing this show at the end of the week because it gives me something to look forward to, and it kind of marks the end of the week, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. Well,
Yeah.
first and foremost, I want to thank you for boldly inviting me as a non-English teacher for the first guest on your show, right?
Yeah, you are the first non-English educator, teacher on the show. So it's something different, right? I want to try to do new things with the show and kind of stretch its format and stretch its potential because there's a lot of things we can do with live streaming. And I've only kind of done the same thing for the last 2 years. So It's really
Mhm.
great to have you here. Li
Thank
Ping,
you for
let's start with a little bit of background. Can you just sort of tell us your story, where you grew up, how you began learning languages, your education, and then how you pursued your career? I think it's a fascinating story.
Sure. I'm a native Chinese, so I was grew up back in China. I think I started to learn English when I was 13. Yeah, because back to 80s, the education system is not that well developed in China. So children, they don't have the opportunity to learn English until they are in middle school. So that's my
Right.
journey start to learn English. Uh, I went to Canton area, which is Guangzhou province in China, for my bachelor degree, which is teaching Chinese as a second language. Because I really have a passion for teaching Chinese language and culture. So after I graduated from the university, I went to another university for my MA degree, which is the same major, teaching Chinese as a second language. So I graduated from my MA at 2010. At that year, I was required to go to another country to complete my internship requirement. So you have to do like abroad teaching in order to get your diploma. So I was recruited to Thailand for teaching Chinese over there for 2 years, and after that I came back to China teaching continued to teaching Chinese as a second language in the universities. At 2015 I get opportunity to move to the US as a Chinese teacher at the University of South Florida. So I teach there for 4 years, and it's a wonderful experience. But I realized that the more I teach, the more I realize that I don't know about
Yeah.
teaching. So I decided to go back to school to the same university. So basically, I was teaching Chinese at the university, and then I was studying as an MA student in the same university. It's a
Busy.
Yeah, it's a busy journey. I graduated from that university in 2019, and then got a job in the Bay Area, Oakland, and then got another job because that job eventually didn't work out. So I got another job in San Francisco. I worked there for 2 years, and then last year, when COVID hit, everything went crazy. So I was super stressed about my working situation, and plus my visa was expired, so I have to leave the country. I have to make a choice. So that makes me really start to think about it, what I'm gonna go in the future, what I have to do with my career, what I have to do with my life. So I quit my job and packed everything in 2 days and moved to Mexico. That was last September, and I started my own business. So this
And
is
you
the
had
whole.
never been to Mexico before.
Never been to Mexico before. Don't speak any Spanish. So basically, I know nothing about Mexico.
And they don't speak Chinese there.
Nobody speaks Chinese.
Most people. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is my whole
Wow.
story.
That is, you did that very boldly.
I would say yes.
In fact, moving from China to the US, that was bold, right? But it's also not unusual. I'm sure that other teachers have done that. But to go from the US into Mexico, that's very, very unusual, very bold. So,
It's
what are you doing? So, then you moved to Mexico. What did you do in Mexico? How did that?
um after I moved to here, I was kind of very stressed at the beginning, because it was not clear to me yet at that time. I quit the job and I need a new job, right, to support myself. So I kept asking myself, what should I do? I mean, I'm a language teacher, right? We used to teach in a classroom setting, but COVID hit, everything changed. The classroom is gone, the students gone. Yeah,
So, when you
so it
moved to Mexico, you weren't going to a university there to teach. You were going there with no job waiting for you.
was not job, with nothing. Yeah, when the moment I got on the airplane, I was super stressed because I don't know where should I go. But there's but I have this like instinct to tell me that everything's gonna work out. You just have to you just have to figure out where you wanna go. So after I moved to here, I start to think, I am a language teacher, right? I used to teach for so many years. And right now everything goes online and students, they learn everything online. So why don't you just start to teach online? That way you can reach to so many people, right? So, and what's the best way to teach online? And you have to let people know you, right? So I started to make videos, started to being active on LinkedIn, started to market myself to let more people know you, let know me that there's a person, and her name is Libby, and she's willing to help you to learn Chinese. So that's my initial plan. And plus, I always have this burning desire inside me. Like I always want to create something on my own, like something on my own that I can help more people in their learning journey. Because in the classroom setting, you always can reach their like a very limited the number of
Yeah.
students, right? Maybe 10, 20, or 30, something like that. But with online teaching, there's a lot of potential, right? You can reach people around the world.
That's right.
So yeah, so that's my plan. So I start to focus on coaching business professionals, to help them improve their business communication skills. The reason I focused on this specific group of people because based on my previous teaching experience, I noticed that those specific people, they have problem when they are communicating with Chinese people in the business environment, especially in business settings. So I that's why I decided to focus on this group of people.
Right. So
Yeah.
you found a niche there. You found a group of people that you could really help, and you sort of customized your teaching for that group, right?
Right, just put them
Business people,
together. Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And when you do that, what are the challenges that those business people face? Let's assume they have some ability with Chinese language, right?
Yeah.
Is it the fact that they don't have the cultural knowledge to interact with Chinese business people?
So most of them, they already speak some Chinese because some of them, for example, they're working for a Chinese company. Some of them, they have to deal with the Chinese customers, or some of them, they have Chinese business partners. So at some point, they need to use Chinese to communicate. But the ability you can speak a language doesn't mean you have the ability to use it, communicate very appropriately and
That's right.
effectively, right? You
Yeah.
know how to speak the language. Sometimes you may offend people without knowing it,
Yeah.
because there's some other facts need to take into consideration, right? For example, the cultural
That's right.
fact. Yeah, so I noticed that even they can speak Chinese, even some of them even can speak very perfect Chinese, very fluently, but they still have the trouble to communicate with people politely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they don't, for example, they don't know how to negotiate in Chinese. They don't know how to, like a very simple thing, like how to greet people in
Yeah.
Chinese in a polite way, right? In a
That's
respectful
right. Yeah.
way. Yeah, so that's why I decided to, I'm gonna help this specific group of people,
That's
to help
great.
them grow. Yeah.
Yeah. It's sort of a hidden factor, right? Cultural awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I find the same thing with English. They can translate from their language into English or just learn the English. That doesn't mean they can effectively communicate with that knowledge alone. You can start to communicate. But in business, the risk is higher. You're trying to make money, you're trying to close deals, you're trying to
Yes.
speak and communicate effectively with a goal. The goal is to do business. So you have a result that you want.
Yeah.
And for
Exactly.
example, convincing someone to buy your products or
Mm-hmm.
convincing another company to make a partnership,
Right.
you need persuasive language. And that's different in
Mm-hmm.
different cultures. How to persuade someone, how to convince them, or how to make them trust you, that works differently in different cultures.
Yeah.
It's not
Exactly.
just language, right?
Mm-hmm. I believe it works the same in English, right?
Yeah,
All depends on different context, right? If you greet to people, let's say, if you greet to people, you have to use different language. It depends on different context, right?
yeah,
For example, the way you greet to your close friend, or the way you greet to your supervisor, or the way you greet to your boss in the company.
That's
It
right.
must be different, right? Yeah.
And also because English is spoken in many countries, let's say it's spoken around the world, but let's just focus on the main native English speaking countries like Canada, US, Britain, of course, and Australia and South Africa. Each one of those has a little bit different culture. Like
Mm-hmm.
Canada, even though it was originally a British colony, it's quite different than the UK. So, where the UK may seem more formal in business, Canada is more casual. So, the way you use English, even in an English country, is going to be slightly different. When you're using it in business and you have a specific goal, right? You're not
Exactly.
just talking for friendship, you're talking for business results.
Exactly.
So, I can imagine it's really challenging when people are learning to communicate with Chinese business persons from whatever country they're in, let's say Mexico or
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, or Europe. And by the way, who are your students? What countries are they coming from?
Um, I didn't like target on specific country because basically they are most of them are business professional, right? Some of them are from United States, some of them from some other countries. So I don't want to limit
Yeah,
the pool of the
sure,
potential
of
clients.
course.
Yes.
Do most of your students come from the U.S. or do some of them come from Mexico or South
Um,
America?
I would say right now most of the clients are from the US. Yeah, because
Right.
there's lots of like big companies in the US. They are doing business
Yeah.
with China, right?
Yeah. Of
Hopefully in the
course.
future I can get some more clients from some other countries.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. And
Hmm.
here's what I want to ask you about working online, because it's what I do as well. What sort of challenges or obstacles or challenges do you find with online? Let's say, what are the good points and the bad points of teaching online compared to teaching in a classroom, in your experience?
Um, I would say the number one challenge for me is to how to find your clients, because as a teacher, if you teach in a classroom setting, your students are right there, right?
Hmm.
They're right there in the classroom waiting for you every day. You just need to show up and deliver the knowledge. So you don't have the trouble to find them. But teaching
Mm,
online, it's different, right? Because
yeah.
you you don't have your students waiting there for you. So you have to go out there to find them. The most challenge for me is that how to find them, right? So we have to
Hmm.
do market, we have to promote ourselves, we have to do sales pitch, we have to persuade people to buy our service, right? To become our students. So that's the
Yeah.
most difficult part for me, uh, to start my online business. I mean, as a
Yeah.
teacher, our expertise is to teach, right? To deliver the knowledge. That's our strength. We have no problem to teach, but we don't know we know nothing about marketing stuff. We know nothing
Yeah.
about sales, those kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So basically, I would say right now the majority of my time is not for teaching. It's actually for marketing and do sales.
Yeah.
A lot of new things you need to learn. Lots of
Yeah.
challenging and issues I'm facing every day, but it's an exciting journey, right? You learn lots of things.
Yeah.
You transform yourself from a teacher to a teacher entrepreneur, and if you're committed to make a difference, committed to help more people, to learn, to grow. You have more responsibility, right? You have to learn. You have to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my challenge,
Yeah. For me, that's exactly the same thing. I'm
right?
happy teaching. That's my skill, but I have to find students. In the past, I just walked in the classroom and someone else brought me students, a sales department. Now
Yeah.
we're the sales department.
Right.
And
We're like,
it's, yeah, and with all respect to salespeople and marketing people, they study that in university, right? That's a whole other discipline,
yeah.
separate from education. So I agree. That has been my biggest challenge. What do you
Yeah.
like most about teaching online?
The most part I like about teaching online is the flexibility. I mean, you basically can control your own schedule, right?
Right.
So you can make a plan based on your schedule. If you want to take a break for today, you can, right? And also, if you want to teach, maybe, let's say, if you wanted to go somewhere and travel maybe for a while, you still can because it allows you to work anywhere you want, right? So you have lots of flexibility and freedom to control your own life. I like that kind of feeling. I have total control of my own life, my time, my location. That's the part which is really makes me feel enjoyable. Yeah, and also another reason is that teaching online, it has a lot of potential. Like I said earlier, you can reach more people right around the world instead of like just helping a very limited number of students in the
Yeah.
classroom. Yeah, and the market potential is huge. It's unlimited, and yeah, I feel like that's within the world is growing so fast, and the connection between the countries and between the people is more and more important than ever
Hmm.
before. So people need to understand each other, especially from different countries and from different
Yeah.
cultures. So let's say what's what's the best way to understand each other. We use language to communicate, right? So language is a very important tool for us to understand each other, to communicate, to
Absolutely.
deliver the information, to promote the cooperation. So making making my business goes online makes me realize that I can really make a differences
Yeah.
by doing this. So I feel that I have a mission, you know, to promote mutual understanding.
Well, I think you're onto something. If we go back in time, just 10 years, people like you and I did not exist. There were not language teachers available online like this, and now they are. So we are kind of, I don't know what the word is, like pioneers. Maybe after 100 years, people will look back and say, well, these people were the first to do that. They were the first wave of online teachers. So
Hmm.
there's a that means there's a huge potential to change the world of education with this kind of online work. So I think we should remind ourselves of that and be proud of what we're doing and do our
Hmm.
best because we're among the first wave of online edupreneurs, right?
Exactly.
10 years ago, this was not a profession, you know?
Hmm. I like the word you use, pioneer.
We really
We
are.
Yes, like you mentioned earlier, Paul. It takes a lot of courage and bravery to go
Yeah,
independent, right?
yeah,
Teacher, in general, as a profession, it's very stable, right? And if you wanted to do it, you can do it for the rest of your life, maybe 15 years, 20 years, right? And you can retire. That's totally fine, right?
yeah.
But if you
There's a
decide
straight
to
line there.
straight line, yes. If you want to go to independent, that's a whole new story, whole different story. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
not
we
a
should
straight line, and there's no retirement waiting for you,
know lots of ups
right?
and downs, right?
Lots of ups and downs. And the
Hmm.
future is, I always like to look at the future is dark and I can't see it clearly.
You
And that
cannot
can
say
be
it.
scary, but it
Yes.
also means something's not waiting for you. That means it's open and you can determine your future. So that's the
Right.
good part.
That's a
That
good
comes
part.
with the scary part.
Yeah. And like we
So,
talked about the other day, it's also a very lonely journey, right?
yeah,
You have to do
sometimes it's
everything.
lonely.
Yeah, have to do everything on your own. You have to self motivate yourself all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. In
Hmm.
fact, I have to admit, that's why I started doing this live stream 2 years ago during the pandemic. Although I was already working with my private students, I started feeling a little bit lonely, like I missed being in a classroom and being part of a school. Although I don't mind being alone, I wanted to make a live stream so I could connect with new people, new students, but also other educators and bring educators on the show because we are pioneers. It's like we all left our old jobs and got in boats and went into the ocean. So we're
Yeah.
all in these boats in the ocean, but when you're in the boat, it sometimes feels like you're alone in the ocean.
Hmm.
You don't know
Hmm.
that over there is someone else doing the same thing. So I've
Yeah.
really enjoyed meeting other educators like you and some others. And the more I talk with fellow online educators, the more I realize we should help each other because rather than competing, there's sometimes there's that feeling like, oh, I don't want to help you because you'll take students from me. I
Right.
certainly don't feel like that. I feel like because we're independent, we should help each other and share tips or share audiences and share viewerships. And, I'm not, I hope some of my audience are interested in what you do, right? They don't have to only learn English, they can also learn Chinese. Why not? Right?
Yeah. Hmm.
There's no
I love.
reason why my audience can only learn English, you
Hmm.
know?
I do. I love what you're doing, Paul. I mean, you are
Thank you.
really enthusiastic and very committed to help your student learning.
Yeah.
It's actually inspired me a lot.
Oh, thank you.
Hmm. Yeah.
But as you said, there are a lot of challenges online that we don't have working in a classroom. And I've noticed that recently a lot of teachers have left online. They were online during the pandemic. And now a lot of them have gone back to classroom because, for obvious reasons, there's a steady paycheck, there's stability, there's pensions if you're in a government education system. There's a lot of attractive points. And plus, you're part of a big group, and not everyone's comfortable working alone.
Hmm.
But like school teachers of all kinds, elementary school, primary school, university, all teachers, their job is to care about their students and give to the students. Give. And that can be exhausting and that can be stressful. So I believe teachers need to take care of themselves, especially independent teachers like us.
Exactly.
For example, I'm
Hmm.
very cautious with my food. I like to eat junk food like pizza once in a while, but mostly I try to eat really healthy. I exercise. I try to get as much rest as possible because I believe that makes me a better teacher, right?
Hmm.
Because it keeps my energy, it keeps my ability to take care of someone else. So I'd like to know how you take care of yourself.
Uh, I totally agree with you because our mental health is very important, right? Because
Yeah.
you are only one person there for your business, right? And you have to take care of yourself mentally, of course, physically as well. So I have my secret to keep myself mentally healthy all the time. I would say because I love, I love lifting weights, right? I love bodybuilding and lifting weights. So every morning, 4:30 every morning, every single day, I will get up at 4:30 and go to gym, and I will do maybe like lifting weights maybe for 2 hours and then come back to start my day. So for me, this is lifelong passion. There's no better way to start my day,
Yeah.
like throwing weights in the gym,
Yeah.
because mentally, it tells myself if you can make yourself get up at 4:30 every morning, that's a painful experience, right? For the majority of people, you can do anything. You can
Yeah.
accomplish anything. So that's the thing I told myself. If you can do that, so you can accomplish anything. You
Absolutely.
can do your business successfully. You can help more people. You can accomplish whatever goal you want to achieve. So that's the thing that I told myself. So even it's so difficult, I would just push myself to do it every single day, every single day. I mean, being physically active and makes me, feel healthy and feel,
Hmm.
motivated. Definitely helps me to grow my business, to focus on
Hmm.
my goal. So that's my secret.
That's nice. That's your
Yeah,
superpower.
superpower. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's a great motivator because you exercise that self-discipline technique. After you wake up at that hour, you lift weights, you have done the hardest thing you're going to do all day. Everything
Hmm.
else feels easy, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Feels easier.
Hmm.
Some
Like a.
people wake up and they go to work and they have all this stress, and that's the hardest part of their day. And then the best part is later. But I think when you exercise in the morning, you're training yourself to take care of the hard stuff first, because
Mhm.
exercising early in the morning is really hard mentally. It's
Mentally.
easy to stay in bed, right?
Yes.
It's easy to stay asleep more, wake up late. That's the easy thing. That's very
Hmm.
impressive.
Hmm. Yeah, I was planning to join a female fitness competition in the next couple of months. So yeah, that's one of my goals. So I told
Great.
myself that, yeah, you have been training yourself so hard, and why don't you just join the competition? And it's also a to prove yourself, right? You are committed to what you tell yourself to do. You keep your word to yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's my motivation. That's my
that's great.
superpower.
Well, I think something else that's kind of an indirect bonus or benefit of living like that is that, like when children learn, they learn first from their parents. They watch and they imitate. If father does this gesture, little Paul will do this gesture, right?
Hmm.
They learn by imitating because parents are the first example of what a grown up is.
Hmm. That is
And
so true.
we work with adults, but adults are not super different from children. And adults watch you too. So if you're hardworking, if you have discipline in your life and you push yourself to do challenging things, they will do it too. They will respond to that because you, as a teacher, before you explain anything in a classroom, before you do anything on the board,
Hmm.
before that, they're looking at you as an example, right? Do I trust this teacher? Does she know what she's talking about, right? Is she going to be nice to me? Is she going to teach me? Or is she just going to make me work hard and then she's going to relax by the pool, right? But if
Exactly.
you're disciplined and you're hardworking and you wake up early, I think that inspires students.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. I totally agree. Your clients and your students are actually watching you,
Yeah,
right? You pay attention to what you're doing. Like you said, you have to to be self-conscious about the image that you're showing to them, right?
yes,
You're really passionate about what you're doing. You're really committed to what you're doing, and they will sense it, right?
yeah,
They will trust in you. It's all part of your self. It's all part of your brand. It's all part of your image, right? And they will
absolutely.
trust this teacher and trust her or him can help me to reach my goal. If you are just relaxing on the next to the pool and being lazy, how could you expect them to trust you
Yeah,
to help them, right?
yeah. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I worked in a school, the class started at 9 a.m., but I would arrive at the school at 6 a.m., do preparations, organize my class, clean it so it's nice for the students. And the students would come at 9 o'clock. Most students come exactly 9 o'clock, and then start class. And they'd say, "Oh, teacher, you were here already," right? Sometimes teachers come in when the class is full. I would be waiting for the students. And they say, "Oh, teacher, you're here already." I said, "Yeah, I've been here since 6." They go, "Oh, really?"
Oh.
Some students started coming early to talk with me in private if they're shy or something, or
Mm-hmm.
they just want to chat about stuff or practice English. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
they bring me a coffee and say, "Teacher, can I talk to you for a few minutes?" But what I also noticed is when they realized I arrived early, they stopped coming late because a lot of students, even though they're adults, they would come at 9:30 or miss a class or sleep in because they were drinking the night before. And I would wake up early and be at class, never class late, never late for class. So when they said, "Oh, teacher, sorry, the bus made me late," I would say, "Well, I got here at 6 and I'm an old man and I live an hour away from your school. So if I can do it, maybe you can do it too." And it changes the way they take care of themselves because you're an example of what's possible. A young person who goes out to the bar at night, they think it's impossible to wake up early. "Oh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
hungover." I'll tell
Yeah.
you what, it is possible because teachers go out drinking too, and they
Yeah.
have to wake up early. So if
Yeah.
teachers can do it, you can do it. So I think when you're an example for students, that teaches them a lot of things indirectly by
Right.
them watching you, right?
Right. Right. You have to set up example for them. As a
Yeah,
teacher, the knowledge is not the only thing you can teach them, right?
that's
There's
right.
some other things that your value and how to be a good
Yeah,
person, a better person. How to push yourself to the higher level. To challenge
yeah,
yourself, to get out of your comfort zone. So that's, I think, as a teacher, we have a really rewarding job and hard job,
yeah,
right? not just the knowledge part. That's what I believe.
I agree 100%. And when we were talking previously, we both realized that in both of our lives, we've boldly taken a chance on our career changes. And there's a lot of students who grow up and their parents tell them, you must do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this, all on a natural schedule that people have been doing for thousands of years. So don't change anything. But the world has changed, right?
Yes.
We don't have to get married when we're 19 and have babies when we're 21 and then have a career when we're 20. You know, the world has many choices and you have to live your life. So I remember when talking with you, I was very impressed and inspired that you took such an amazing risk with your career to not only move to the US, but to move to Mexico, and not only to move to Mexico, but to move to Mexico with no job and creating a new job. But I think, like I said, you're a pioneer because in the future, I think everyone's going to do this. I think in the future, borders between countries won't be as important as they are now. I hope so, because I also think that will make the world more peaceful. I believe in a future where we can live in any country we want to. I was born in Canada, but I don't want to live here all the time, maybe. Maybe I want to live in China. Maybe I want to live in Mexico. We should be able to do that. And we will be able to work in any country. We'll all be digital nomads. And this is where language is important.
Exactly.
So I guess my point is, people like you are an inspiration to your students because a lot of students believe life is a straight line and there's a clear path to follow. And I don't believe that, and it's clear that you don't believe that either. So I think you inspire a lot of people with your story, with your story as your brand, you know?
I would like to say hello to Andrew real quick. He's a friend from LinkedIn. Hi, Andrew.
Oh,
Thank you.
great.
Yeah.
Thanks for
So-
joining us, Andrew.
I would say, for me, there's no good thing and bad thing. I believe that there's no good thing in your life and there's no bad thing in your life. Don't view
Yeah.
things like that way. If you make something wonderful out of your experience, that's a good thing for you.
Yeah.
If you decided to make something really miserable out of your experience, that's a bad thing for you. Take myself as an example. If I was being very depressed and stressed about moving to Mexico, no job, no money, no nothing, no friends, that's gonna be hell to me because I have nothing,
Yeah.
right? But if you view it as a new opportunity, as a new fresh start to allow you start building something, start to really live the life that you want, start to chase your dream, that's a good thing for you, right? It all depends how do you view it. And I also believe as a human being, we're not just a piece of creation by God, right? For example, animals, they eat, they sleep, they die, right? We are human beings. We have this huge intelligence and brain. We can do something with it. So we can live our life, chase our dream. We can do so much better than just doing a job, go to sleep, go to eat, go to work, and go home and die and retire, right? We can do so much better.
We're not
So
animals. Well, we
we're
are
not-
animals biologically, but we're a special animal.
yeah. Well, anyway, yeah, that's my mindset.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And I think we have, furthermore, we have a responsibility to use our brain to make choices
Right.
instead of just following what everyone does or following what society is telling us to do. We also have the ability to make new choices and do new things that we want. And I believe that will add to society. It might even change what's normal,
Exactly.
right?
Yes.
30, 40 years ago, a few people in the computer world did something very unusual. They started making home computers. Everyone thought they were crazy, right? And so then Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and all those people made a new normal world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They used their brain, their intelligence, and their boldness to try something new that eventually became super normal. Now it's everywhere,
Yeah. Look
right?
at how much the world has been changed, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
They changed the world with their choices and their desire to do something unusual. So you've done something unusual by becoming an online teacher as I have. And I think in the future, this will be normal and we'll be pioneers in it. But it takes courage. What
It's
we're
correct.
doing, we have to be bold to do it, and we have to not give up. So that brings me to my next question, Li Ping. Have you ever had doubts like, maybe I should just go get a job at a school and have a steady paycheck? It'll be easy. I walk in, the class is full of students. I don't have to do any sales or marketing. I have professional sales and marketing people do that. Have you ever thought about doing that? Do you ever doubt what you're doing?
I do.
Because I do.
You do, right? We have the same struggling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I would say it has lots of ups and downs during the
Yeah.
journey. Um, Sometimes when you couldn't like get any clients in a couple months, right? Sometimes when you keep creating content but there's no viewers, right? Those things gonna affect you. So yeah, I would say majority, most of the time I would kind of like ask myself, this is really hard. Do you still want to continue doing it, or you want to just find a job and just, it's easier for you? And just quit. But
Hmm.
after I can come down, I realized that I cannot quit. I cannot go back because, like we talked about the other day, if my school, the school that I used to work for, if my school just offer me the job with a better salary or with a more like good working environment, are you willing to come back? The answer is no. I don't want to come. Don't want to go back because I already on this journey. I wanted to really want to build something. I don't want to look back. So yeah, every day, you just you have self doubt, but you have to self motivate. You know,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah, it's always a challenge because we are alone in our little boats in the ocean, and sometimes you become full of doubt. Maybe I should turn the boat and go back. But I think when you do that, if you go back, you find that that place you left, that world you left, is not the same anymore. So it's better to go forward. Just keep
yeah,
going forward, and eventually you reach your destination. And I think it's like you said earlier when you compared humans and animals. It's not that animals are useless or just objects, but
no, no,
they cannot affect the world the way humans can. Humans can
yeah,
affect and
right,
impact the world in good ways and bad ways. Let's be
right,
fair. We can create global warming and so on, but we can affect the world in positive ways. And because we can, I think we should. I think we have a duty to do that. And each of
yeah.
us has something different to offer the world.
Mhm. I agree. Yeah,
But
I saw this Facebook users comment. Yeah, animals doesn't. Yeah, I totally agree. It's just that animals not like humans. We can
yeah,
consciously make decision, make the
yeah,
contribution, make the differences. Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So
We have
that's
a
what.
much more of a willpower to make a choice to get a certain result. We are operating on our evolutionary biological impulses. There's a lot of great research about that. But we also have the ability to make decisions that might seem like they're going against nature sometimes, but we want that thing. And sometimes we don't know why, but sometimes we do. And sometimes what we're trying to do is change the world that we see around us.
Yeah.
Generally, animals don't do that.
Mhm.
Animals look for food and look for mates and look
Mhm.
for shelter.
Right.
Humans have the ability to say, that thing there that I'm looking at, I can change that, right? You
Mhm.
and I were classroom teachers, but we saw this opportunity with online teaching. We said, I can do that. I can make something happen. I can take what I did in a classroom and move it here,
Yes.
right?
Exactly.
Make some changes, but there's an opportunity there that doesn't exist before, but I can imagine it. I can
Mhm.
imagine how it will be. That's an amazing power we have, and I think we have a duty to use it well, particularly to help other people.
Yeah.
I want to ask you too about something because it's clear you haven't really mentioned it, but it's clear that not only are you a Chinese language teacher, you yourself are an English language learner, or have
Mm-hmm.
been, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned earlier that you started learning English at the age of 13.
Yes.
What I'd like to know is, as an English learner and an educator, what are the differences? Let's compare the way you learned English and how teachers taught you English with how you teach Chinese. You tell me a little bit about the differences or similarities. I'm curious because I have no idea how Chinese language is taught. How does one learn Chinese language? Because it's a very
Mm,
different visual language than English is.
yeah. So I'll start with my own experience of learning English. It's to be honest, it's not really I don't really enjoy learning English when I was young. It's just not a joyful experience for me because the way we learn English in back in China, it's very academic oriented. We only have one goal, aiming for the higher score, because
Right.
everybody has to take the exam to enter to enter the university, to get into the
Mm.
high school, to get the highest score. That's our only goal. So we spend lots of time in the classroom to learn grammars, to analyze the language, to compare the difference between two words, to read stuff, to writing stuff, but never really get a chance to talk because we don't have the chance, we don't have the environment, right?
Right.
And
And the goal
plus,
isn't communication, the goal is pass the test.
yeah, just pass the test, just get a score and pass the test.
Okay.
And plus, the test doesn't require you to speak something. It's not part of the requirement for the
Mm.
test. So you don't really need to focus on speaking skill. So I would say I barely can speak any English before I came to the US in 2015. Yeah, maybe just short phrases, some basic one, but I don't really know how to communicate in English. I really start to learn English and start to use it for communication. Communication, that's the ultimate goal for us to learn language, right? Start to
Mm-hmm.
use it to communicate in English. It's when I came to the US. I start to listen, start to learn, and start to make progress. So my own experience of learning English really makes me to think about, as a Chinese teacher, what is the best way for you to teach
Okay.
Chinese to your student, right? Don't try to like explain the grammar in English like very explicitly, and they just sit over there and listen to you, right? And don't just focus on the grammar and vocabularies and just ignore the chance for them to really speak it out, to actually use the
Mm-hmm.
language, right? So that makes me start to do some self-reflection about how to teach Chinese. So basically, I have some very fundamental philosophy that for me to teach Chinese, I think it's this. They are very common in second language acquisition, even in learning English. First, you have to learn it by using your ears. You have to listen a lot because you once you get the input, once you can understand what people are talking about, the information is received to your brain, right? So you can respond to it. If you don't understand what they're talking about, there's no way for you to maintain the conversation, to exchange the
Mm-hmm.
information, to exchange the message, right? I mean, think about the baby when they are learning their first language, when they're learning their mother tongue. Nobody teach them. Their brain has not been well developed yet. Nobody explain grammar rules to them. Nobody ever teach them explicitly. How do they learn? They learn
And they're
by
not, yeah, and they're not translating from a first language, right?
yes, yeah. So they are
They're just
learning
listening.
by absorbing everything they
Yeah.
hear, they listen from the environment, right? So they internalize from the environment, and learn it naturally. We call that language acquisition. So I would say use your ears more often instead of using your eyes, use your mouth, use your ears first, and then really listen to it, especially for Chinese, because Chinese is a tonal language, right? The tone and
Yeah.
pronunciation is very, very essential. If you get the wrong tone or pronunciation, it's gonna be totally different meaning. So you have to be careful. How do you distinguish and how do you tell the difference between the tones and pronunciations? By listening to it.
Yeah.
Lots of Chinese learners asked me, I just don't get it. What is the efficient way for me to learn Chinese? I couldn't tell the differences between those two words. So I would suggest them to listen to it. Listen it over and
Hmm.
over by your ears. You will see the difference and then mimic it. Mimic it and
Yeah.
over. Once you internalize it, you can use it in your conversation next time. That's the number one strategy I would suggest. And also, I would suggest them, for Chinese learners to learning in a real conversation, in a natural, in authentic context. Because the goal of learning a language is to use it in real conversation, right? So if
Yeah.
you are, so if you learn something that you cannot use it in real conversation, so what's the point for you to learn it? So the way I would do it is to set up the real context, authentic learning context for them, and let them
Yeah.
practice the language in that context, rather than explain its grammar structure to them. Or you have to use it like this, or you have to use it that way. So I think it's more efficient to get them
Hmm.
practicing real language context would be more efficient. Yeah,
And also,
that's
it seems like your students are business people, so they don't have to pass a test. They need to communicate with other people
mm-hmm.
for goals and they want their message to be understood clearly. Like in business, if you misunderstand the message, it could be a disaster for your business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about passing a test, it's about communication.
Yes.
It also seems to me very interesting that you mentioned the tonal language. English has a little bit about that, a little bit of accent and intonation that can be very important, but nothing like it is with Chinese. So, because English is more built on syllables and parts of words, when they learn Chinese and they want to practice their listening, what do you suggest to them? Like watching Chinese movies or listening to Chinese songs? So when you say practice listening, what should they do?
Yeah, what I mean by that, it's choose something that it's natural conversation. It occurs in natural conversation.
Okay.
For example, you can watch TV shows, right, or movies. That conversation is happening naturally, right? It's a real
Right.
conversation for you. Or the best way, if you get a chance to talk with the native speakers,
Hmm.
let's say if you can go to dinner with them, or if you go shopping with them, you have the chance to have the conversation, right? That will be the
Yeah.
best way. But if you don't have the chance, just watch movies or watch the TV shows. That will be
Hmm.
another option for you. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's really important to like you said, when you go shopping or something, that's a that's a great way to learn all languages, I think, because it gives you a context to remember.
Right.
And after you
Yes.
after you have that experience, you have the memory in your mind, not just of what your friend said, but where you were when you said it, what you were doing when they said it. All of that helps you remember it clearly and sort of play the movie again in your mind. Oh, we
Right.
were at the store and my friend said such and such.
Right.
I think that's a
And
great way to learn. If you
yeah, and
can,
next,
if you
right. Next time when you come across the same situation, because you already have the experience, right? Your body and your mind, your brain has already
yeah,
experienced the same thing. So you can just access to the information very quickly and grab it and
yeah,
use it. So that's how you internalize the language.
yeah. It's I have a friend and colleague who has studied this a lot and makes this a part of her work. The idea of embodying language, bringing it into your body, because your body and your mind are not separate. And if, as you're learning a language, you can get your body involved, like even just, having your body and your being present in a situation with your other friend, like we just describing shopping, you're using your body and that helps encode information in your mind in
Hmm.
a much better way. Because we use our body, right, when we speak, we're using our voice, we're using our lungs, we're using our gestures, and we have a situation or context that we're communicating in. All of that is
Yes.
part of communication. Communication is not just a piece of language, right?
Yes. Totally agree. Yes.
I just want to say quickly, Li Ping, hello to On the Spot Language, who says connecting all of our senses when acquiring a language makes exactly what we're talking about, right?
Yes.
Bringing it into your body, bringing it into the context, remembering the experience of using the language,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. Um, we're running out of time, so I'm going to ask Li Ping if you'd like, we can ask the audience, guys, do you have any questions for Li Ping? Anyone have any questions? Don't forget to subscribe to Li Ping's YouTube channel, which is called Learn Chinese for Business. Learn Chinese for Business. Check that out and make sure you subscribe. Anyone have a
Any
question?
question, guys? I'll be more than happy to answer.
I have a question to get started.
Mhm.
I love Chinese food. So if I visit China, I'm gonna gain weight. When you moved to Mexico, were you excited to eat Mexican food? Do you like Mexican food?
I'm obsessed with tacos.
Ah,
I love,
okay, great.
yes, they have there's all different kinds of options. You can basically eat taco every day without, without the same options that you choose yesterday. So yeah, I love it. Um, I think the reason I, decided to move to Mexico is, I always feel like be open minded, right? About the food and about the culture. Just try, give it a try to see how do you feel. And I tried the cooking class. I tried all different kinds of food. I tried their salsa dance, and it turns out I love it. Yeah, so I
Nice.
really, I mean, looking back, I really think that this decision is meant to be. Everything is
Yep.
meant to happen for
It's
me.
like you said earlier, it could be any choice we make could be a disaster or it could be the best thing we ever
Could be
happened.
the best thing.
A
Yeah.
lot of it's up to us. A lot of it's up to us what we do with that moment, with that
Yes.
choice, right?
Up to you. Yes.
You've decided to go there with lots of uncertainty, lots of risk. You've decided to go there and start a new life, start a new profession, and make it a great experience, right? Try new things, accept challenges. We have our first question, Li Ping,
Hmm.
from Facebook user. What do you feel is the importance in learning about culture when acquiring a language?
Oh, I love this question. This is a really good question. I don't know your name, only Facebook users. Yeah, but thank you for these questions. Yeah.
I
Uh,
think also there's a second part, Li Ping. Seems like immersing yourself in language and in culture makes all the difference. Good for you. So, what do you
um,
think is the importance or the connection between language and culture?
I would say language and culture is inseparable. They are connected. Think about it. If you just use the language itself and use it to communicate with people, it's gonna be a disaster. Because without context, without culture, the communication cannot be successful. I will give you an example
Mm-hmm.
in Chinese culture. For example, very simple thing, we say hello to people in Chinese culture. If you say hello to your friends, to your family, or to your co-workers, to your boss, it's different. We say everybody knows ni hao, right? Ni hao in Chinese. We only say it to the strangers, the person you
Mm-hmm.
meet at the first time. We don't say ni hao to friends, to families, to our boss, to co-workers. We use a different language, but it's the same communication task, right? Simply say hello to people, but it's
Mm-hmm.
different language to use in different context.
Mm-hmm.
Why we do it that way? Because of the culture thing, right?
Yep.
When we say hello to our family, we want to use different language to show our respect. When we say hello to somebody have a higher level than us, maybe higher level position, we want to show our respect. We
Mm-hmm.
want to show like our being modest, right? So we will use different language. Why are we doing that? Because Chinese people value respectful, right? Being
Mm-hmm.
respectful. We value hierarchy. That's
Yep.
why we use different language. So if you separate language and culture, and to learn that language, it's not going to help you to become a
Mm-hmm.
successful language learner. Yes, so we cannot separate it. But how do we learn the culture thing? How do we learn, combine the language and the culture together to become a successful language learner, not only being grammatically correct, but also being culturally appropriate. That's the goal for learning a language.
Yeah.
So what I do, because we are learning a language online right now, we're learning a language in the classroom setting, right? For example, if my clients, my students learn Chinese with me, there's no opportunity for them to actually immerse themselves in target language environment. They're not in China, right? Outside the classroom, all their friends are Americans or Mexicans. They don't have the chance to really immerse themselves in that culture, in that target culture. So as a teacher, what should I do? I should create the cultural context for them because
Right.
the chances are very limited for them. I should create that chance for them. So what I do, I will create the cultural context for them. For example, we're at a restaurant, a Chinese restaurant. You're the customer. I'm the waitress. I'll give you this context, and I'll give you the what language we need to use. I give you the vocabulary, the grammar structure beforehand, and you have to prepare for it, right? So after you being prepared to come to my class, we're at a restaurant. We're not in the classroom. We're at the restaurant. I'm the
Yeah.
waitress. You're the waiter. Try to use the language to perform it, like we're in a real situation.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, hold your menu and take a look at the menu and tell me what do you want to eat by using Chinese. By using the
Hmm.
structure, I already give it to you. It's okay you make mistakes. It's okay
Yeah.
you get scared, you couldn't say it perfect at the first time, but you have to performance it. You have to do it to in this kind of culture contest. So that's the way you know how to do it in this
Yeah.
kind of contest. Next time you can use it because your body, like we said, your body has already do it. Your brain has already have the memory, and your mind is already familiar with the whole experience. Next time when you go to the restaurant alone by yourself in China, in a Chinese restaurant, you can do it by yourself.
Hmm. I really like that you do that, and I've seen you do that in some of your video work. And I think there's a lot of English teachers using video and Zoom to teach students, and I think one of the things they don't do a lot of is recreating different contexts. A
Right.
lot of it ends up being just sort of face to face and talking heads. But I love the idea of sort of dramatizing a different situation. Like, okay, we're in a restaurant, so it's kind of, it could be a little bit casual or it could be formal. It depends on the restaurant. Okay, then we're with a family party, very casual and friendly. And then we're in a business meeting. And then maybe we have to go visit a government official. All these
Yes.
different levels of formality, the
Mhm.
language has to be used differently, right?
Yes.
You know, it's interesting too because although it's clear that a place like China has a much different value for hierarchy and therefore it's integrated in the language, even in Western countries like North America, there is still a way to use language differently in different contexts. The society may be more egalitarian and less hierarchical, but it's not official, right? Someone may not occupy an official status higher than you, but you still want to be able to show respect. Like if you
Right.
see your friend, you might say, "Hey, what's up?" I'm not going to say that to my boss.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to go to a government office to get my passport updated and say, "Yo, dude, what's happening?"
Yeah.
They're going to think I'm an idiot, right? So
Yeah. So that's the
we
point,
still need to
right?
be able to control the language in different
Right.
registers and different formalities.
Exactly. You need to manipulate the language based on different contexts.
Really
Why
do.
you need to do that is because of the culture, right?
Yep. And also, sometimes inside a culture like Canadian or inside a culture like Chinese or Mexican, there are microcultures, little subsets of a larger culture. For example, each certain industry, like education industry or marketing industry, or let's say, I don't know, police, law enforcement, they have their own way of using the language inside there.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
the other factor I think in all cultures is what's the culture of getting what you want? In a restaurant, you want the food. So that's your goal for your communication. That's your communicative goal, to get the food, right? So how do you get the food from the waiter or the server? In business, it's different. How do I get that deal or that contract with my business partners?
Yes.
In social, it's different. How do I become friends with that person? Or how do I ask that person for a date? There's
Mm-hmm.
different goals inside the cultural context. And
Exactly.
in a different country culture, those are all different,
Yes. Yes. So
right? So we have to learn all these different ways to manipulate the language.
right. Like we said, language and culture, it's always connected, right? I remember that this one example when I was teaching at the University of South Florida. In our program, we have this one student. He's really good, speak perfect Chinese, very fluently. So we got this opportunity for him to go to China as an intern in a company because he always wanted to go to China. So a few months later, we get the feedback from the company, and the supervisor told us we he's good. He speaks really good Chinese. Everybody can understand him, but we just don't like him because people think that he's rude.
Yeah.
He don't respect people. He's very rude. He's very direct because in Chinese culture, we tend to communicate in a very indirect way, right?
Hmm.
So that's my point here. You know how to speak the language, you know the grammar, you know the vocabulary. Doesn't mean that you know how to communicate effectively
Yeah.
and appropriately. Yes.
Yeah. And sometimes somebody can sound rude, even though their heart is not, they don't mean it rudely.
You mean it,
They,
yes.
they might be very kind. They might be very, want to be your friend or want to be your business partner, but the way they use the words comes out rude.
Yeah.
That's true in English. I've seen that with students too. When they get to a certain level where they're very fluent and confident, but you haven't yet learned to manipulate the language to be what I would call elegant with their communication, to really be able to read the situation and use the language to effectively communicate their idea in a way that works with the other person. Because
Right.
your communication is working with another person. You are communicating with someone else. You're not just saying
Just
something out in the
put all
world.
your information out there. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not lecturing. You're trying to get someone to do something or explain something to do, so they understand, or ask them to do something for you. You can't ask someone to do something for you rudely. They'll never do it, right?
Hmm.
It's almost like a higher level of language control.
Exactly.
So I love the fact that you're using these kind of context and cultural elements in language learning because they are inseparable. Language is culture. Language is a huge part of culture. It's also how we communicate and share culture.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And some people, I'm sure you've seen this with your students, depending on where you're from. For example, if they're learning Chinese language, they're learning a language that represents a culture that is thousands and thousands of years old. So it's very refined, very developed culture, sense of culture and depth of culture.
Hmm.
If you're a North American, your culture is basically 200 or 300 years old. It's a baby culture. There is no, in Canada is even younger than the US. We really have a very, very shallow culture. It's
Very
not
young.
really well developed. It's a very young country. I like to say it's growing. So if you're a newcomer, for example, you get to add to the culture and help develop it. And we have multicultures here that create a mix. We're kind of a global culture. So I think North Americans sometimes forget when they're learning a language like Chinese that represents a culture that's vastly more evolved and refined than ours, that
Hmm.
all of these subtleties are very important. And
Yeah.
they're all built into the language use, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
In that way, communicating in English in North America is a lot simpler because there isn't the depth of culture behind it, you know?
Very, very direct, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
can be. I mean, we don't just walk around talking like jerks, right? There's ways to be polite with English and there's way to be direct.
Hmm.
Generally, English North American culture is a direct culture. That doesn't mean it's rude. In our
Yeah.
language, there's ways to
Mhm.
be polite.
Right.
But the idea is not to be indirect, but to say clearly what you're thinking and what you want, but do it elegantly and respectfully and politely so you get the result that you're after.
Hmm.
And that's part of the reason North America, even more than British, culture, language use is direct is because we're multicultural. And so two people meet on the street, they both use English, but they may have different limits of English. So over time, the language has simplified to be direct because you got to make sure the other person understands you, right? So one person might be from Italy, another person might be from Mexico, and they meet in Vancouver, where I live. Well, you're not sure what they know. So you have to be very clear and direct so that we understand each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a culture like Chinese that has a long history and a long
Excuse me.
process of growth, there's a lot of knowledge built into that, right? So I think that's probably a huge challenge for your students, is it not? To really understand the cultural nuance when using the language.
Yeah, exactly. Um, One example would be so in Chinese culture, when people make a compliment to you, like for example, if they compliment your English or your English is so good, in American culture, the natural response would be, "Oh, thank you," right? Simply say thank
Yeah.
you. But in Chinese culture, you don't want to sound very arrogant, right? So we always culturally we always deflect the compliment by
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, it's not like you said that good. It's not that good. Yeah, I still have lots of space to improve." We will say that way to deflect the
Right.
compliment. Yeah. So
Modesty is a very prized value, right?
right. Yeah. So most of the case when American students went to China for travel, maybe for a summer camp, if some other people make a compliment to them, they will say, "Oh, 谢谢, 谢谢, thank you."
Thank you. It's like
Yeah.
accepting the compliment. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. I am great at my language.
Right. Right. I am great. I know I'm great.
Yeah. Thank you for noticing.
Yeah. I know I'm great.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah. So the natural way would be
Re-
deflected, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because everything gets shortened with English because we value this brevity, this shortness of communication. When someone says thank you, what someone gives you a compliment, you say thank you. What you're really saying is thank you for saying that.
Seeing that, right?
Not thank you for noticing my wonderful point, but thank you for saying something nice. But we don't say that. We just say thanks. Yeah, it's all about me. By doing that, it directs the attention to us instead of the wonderful gift they gave us of saying thank you, because they didn't have to.
Yeah.
So I think we have this problem by shortening our language so much, some of the meaning is lost. And that can be confusing for learners, right? Li Ping, our time is running out. My studio is going to melt. So I'm gonna have to thank you, but I'd like to invite you back on the show another time because I really want to learn more about your work, what you do, and some of the commonalities and differences in teaching English as I do and teaching Chinese as you do.
Absolutely. Sorry for keeping it so long.
No, thank you for staying so long with me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for inviting me. Yeah.
It's a great honor to have you on the show. I'm a big fan of your work, as I've said before. And even though typically we have English educators on here, I just felt there was so much in common with what we're doing, especially having moved to the online space. There's lots to learn and share here. I want to just maybe we can end the show. Do you have any just general learning tips? Maybe one or two tips you can give our learners, whether they're learning English or learning Chinese. What could you just suggest to them?
Um, I love this question. This is the great question. Because myself, I've been learning different languages. Chinese is my native language. I'm learning Spanish. I'm learning English, right? I'm speak Thai. So, yeah, my number one advice would be confident, guys. Be confident. Yes. And as I'm talking with Paul, with you guys, you probably noticed that I made lots of mistakes, right? But I don't really care about the mistakes. I just, keep expressing myself as long as you guys can understand me, as long as what I said can be comprehensible. right? So that's the
And
key.
it was. Everything you've said has been comprehensible.
Yeah. So yeah, let me know if you couldn't understand me. Type on the screen. So my point here is that don't afraid of making mistake. Do not view mistake as a failure. View it differently. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
Love it.
That's the whole point. And looking back my own experience of learning English, I always say this every single time when I have a meeting or when I'm doing presentation. I always say this to my audience. Excuse for my bad English. I'm sorry my English is not so good. I say this a lot. And one day I asked myself, why do you feel the need to apologize for your English? Why do you apologize? Did you do something wrong? No. Did you hurt somebody? No. Then why you apologize? Right?
Hmm.
I guess deep down in my mind, I'm scared of making mistake. I'm scared of in front of speaking in front of a large audience, especially when they're native English speakers. I want to leave a good impression to them. I don't want to make them feel that my English is crappy. So I apologize in advance in the hopes of that I
Yeah.
can leave a good impression to them. But oftentimes this will have the opposite effect. I mean, think about it. They don't know you at all. The first thing come out of your mouth is that, "Oh, sorry that my English is not so good. Excuse my English is not so good." This is the first thing come out of your mouth. What they are going to expect? They are going to expect you will make mistakes.
Yeah.
They are going to expect that they will not be able to understand you, and they will
Hmm.
intentionally try to focus to catch your mistakes.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, so don't say anything, just be confident, be boldly, speak of yourself. Yeah, the boldly, that's the word. Yeah,
Speak boldly.
speak boldly and be confident. Think about it. You have spent lots of time and energy to learn English. You have gone so far to get where you are right now, to reach whatever the proficient level you are right now. You overcome your fear, your anxiety to put yourself out there to handle the conversation in a language you're not familiar with. Sometimes the situation even makes you very uncomfortable. For example, out of order food in a restaurant, you with a different language, let's say in Spanish, very uncomfortable, right? But you still try to handle it and you did it. Then you should be proud of yourself instead of apologize. So every time when you try to talk in English, give yourself a mental motivation in your mind. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna just speak it very confident, very boldly. I'm not gonna tell them that my English is not so good, and I'm not gonna tell myself that my English is not so good.
Hmm.
So that's my number one suggestion. Your confidence sometimes can beat your grammar and your pronunciation. You don't have to be speaking very perfect grammar and very perfect pronunciation. Even native speakers sometimes cannot do it,
For
right?
sure.
Yeah. So just trust yourself, and you can do it.
That's wonderful.
That's my suggestion.
Yeah. That's wonderful, Li Ping. Thank you for sharing that. Um, what's what? Excuse me. What are you working on next? What's the future? What's the future for Li Ping's YouTube channel and projects?
Um,
What are you
right
working
now,
towards next?
I really focus on promoting the brand and put more energy to produce more valuable content to the audience, to my clients, so which requires me to spend lots of time to really produce the content, to shoot the video, to find the topic, and to actually make the video. So my number one priority right now is actually grow my channel and attracting more potential clients. Yeah. So
Yep.
I really appreciate the opportunity that teacher Paul gave it to me today
Oh,
because yeah, and he has been really supportive to me along the journey. Every time I feel down, every time I feel depressed, I'm stressed, I reach out to him, and he always cheer me up.
Thank you
Yeah.
for saying that.
So teacher Paul is a really, really good person and really good teacher. So you guys are lucky.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm just trying. How's that?
Mhm.
No, I'm just doing my best.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, I'm speaking from the bottom of my heart. Yeah. So
Thank you, Leaping.
next priority for me would be, really grow my channel and make more valuable content to the clients to help them, because I believe that if you put your heart to the right place, like if you really want to help people, right, to help them grow, help them learn something, the rest will follow.
Yeah.
Your audience, your views, your channel, your clients,
Yeah.
your profit, everything will fall into the place. So
Yeah.
I believe that.
I do too. But it's sometimes easy to forget that we are the product.
We're the product. Yeah.
We're not selling phones and then they go away. We are the product and our service that we provide. So just like a phone, when you're choosing a phone, you choose the best phone that does what you want it to do, that's going to help you. If we're not helping, we're not a good product, right? If we're not
Hmm.
benefiting the customer, we are not a good product. So who's going to pay for it? Who's going to
Exactly.
follow our channel? Who's going to watch our live show? So we
Exactly.
always have to be delivering value because we are the product.
Hmm.
Teachers forget that. Teachers aren't used to thinking like that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
But online teachers need to. We have to keep
Exactly.
our product valuable and growing, right? Changing, evolving, and growing to meet the needs of our customers.
Hmm.
We have a late joiner. Just want to say hello to Nelba. Hi, Nelba. We are just about to finish. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Let's give a round of applause virtually to Li Ping Yan for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Learn Chinese for Business. Also, down in the description box, we have your LinkedIn connection. I think your Facebook link is there, and also your email if they need to get in touch with you. And if you want to learn Chinese, guys, oh, sorry. If you want to learn Chinese for business, here's your teacher.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you everyone for your time. Thank you for having me on again. I really appreciate it. And I wish you guys enjoy the learning journey and be a successful English learner. Okay?
Great. Thanks, Li Ping. I'll talk to you soon. We'll have you back on the show again.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye everyone.
Wonderful. Hopefully, you've enjoyed meeting Li Ping Yan. And again, subscribe to her channel here. She has really interesting videos. Lots to learn from her. And, it's interesting talking with her because I see so much in common. Even though she's teaching another language, she's doing the same kind of thing I am and other colleagues and peers are doing. We're all trying to help students around the world using the internet tools that we have. And it is a new frontier, and we are kind of pioneers, and we should think of ourselves like that and support each other. So it's my pleasure to have her on the show. Guys, I'll see you next week, same time, Friday evening. We'll have a Q&A show next week, and in the following week, more guests. Until that time, I want you to take care, stay safe, stay healthy, keep learning English or Chinese. And until I see you next, stay cool.